Welcome to BDO World Hockey. In this edition, the contenders for next month's Commonwealth Games event, Australia strong favourites for double gold. The Dutch women's team on tour and chosen to feature in a television documentary. And German striker Christopher Zeller up close and personal. But first, a win at home for Argentina, beating the Netherlands to win the Four Nations tournament played in Cordoba. The home team were aggressive from the beginning, getting an early penalty corner in the 3rd minute with World Hockey Player of the Year Luciana Aymar scoring from the drag flick. While the Netherlands tried everything to break the dominance of the Argentinian midfield, it was the brilliant Aymar who was always posing a constant threat to the Dutch defence. Argentina stuck to their game plan and, maintaining their 1-goal margin until the end of the match, took a deserved win.
My analysis is that it's been a very important tournament. We played against 3 top-level teams here in our country, and having won, it's very important. What you get to see here, with all these people, is something unique and good. Obviously, it's the best way to start the year with growth that the team wants to get to the World Cup in the best condition.
In the battle for 3rd position, neither Australia nor England could score during regulation or 2 periods of extra time. A penalty corner deep into extra time, the last roll of the dice for Australia, but a good save sent the match into a penalty shootout. Angie Skirving put the Aussies ahead. Then England's Mel Clulo put the ball wide of the net to give Australia the bronze medal.
Belgium's men have beaten Egypt in a 5-test series played in Cairo. The Belgians won the series 3-1 with 1 match drawn. Both teams will compete in the BDO Men's World Cup qualifying event in China in April.
Spain has begun its 2006 international campaign with 2 games against Australia in Melbourne. The Kookaburras were first on the board when Brent Livermore converted a penalty stroke. 3 minutes later, Travis Brooks and Jamie Dwyer combined to set up Grant Schubert. Spain hit back with a goal by Paul Amat to get back into the match. But the Aussies replied with a penalty corner from Luke Dorner. It was just before half-time when Spain made it 3-2 through David Allegra. They drew level 10 minutes after the restart. Australia regained the lead through Travis Brooks. But the visitors drew level again to make it a 4-4 result when David Allegra scored his second. Both teams are renowned for their high scoring, but it was all Australia in Game 2. The first half was dominated by defences until the Kookaburras managed to break the deadlock with a goal from Travis Brooks. The Kookaburras started to dominate in the second half and went up 2-0 with a flick from Luke Dorner. Australia sealed the win through Craig Victory with his first goal since returning to the team from injury.
Argentina has won the right to host the 2007 Women's Champions Trophy tournament in Mar del Plata. It will be the 3rd Champions Trophy played in Argentina, having hosted the event in Rosario in 2004 and previously in Mar del Plata in 1995. The event will be played in January next year.
The men's event will return to its spiritual home in Lahore in December next year. It will be the 12th time the event has been played in Pakistan and the 6th time it has been hosted in Lahore.
And hockey met football when German football legend Franz Beckenbauer was honoured with the first VIP ticket to the BDO Men's World Cup tournament to be played in Mönchengladbach in September. Beckenbauer is the only person to have won football's World Cup as both a player and manager. He was presented with the VIP ticket in his role as president of the FIFA World Cup Organising Committee. The FIFA World Cup tournament will be played across Germany in June and July. The Australian Kookaburras are riding the crest of a wave after their wins in the Champions Trophy and the Olympic Games. They're hot favourites to take out the Commonwealth Games next month in Melbourne. But although the likes of Germany and the Netherlands don't compete in the Commonwealth event, the Australians expect a tough contest, with 6 of the world's top 12 nations competing. India and Pakistan pose the strongest threats, but the Aussies will also face New Zealand, who are just outside the top 6, as well as the African champions South Africa and teams from England and Malaysia, who are both rebuilding.
India, Pakistan always, and certainly if we look at South Africa, England, New Zealand, very difficult teams for us. Play a similar style, always difficult for us to get over, and not to underestimate a Malaysian team that's improving and will be better for some new players as well.
The Kookaburras are planning well ahead, with the Melbourne event and this year's World Cup part of a 4-year strategy aimed at back-to-back Olympic gold medals.
If we look at this year, certainly our target's the Commonwealth Games first and the World Cup. Champions Trophy will play a very important role in our preparation, and looking towards 2008, this year is a stepping stone. We haven't achieved with this group World Cup success, so certainly our immediate goal is Commonwealth Games and beyond that the World Cup.
The Hockeyroos are also favourites in Melbourne, following their silver medal in the Champions Trophy and the absence of non-Commonwealth nations such as the Netherlands and Argentina. The performance in Canberra, an important stepping stone in the plans of head coach Frank Murray.
From a confidence point of view and a belief in, the direction that we're heading, it was very positive, and I think it also enables them to feel good about themselves within the group. Okay, not just the pathway that the coaches are taking them down.
And despite the absence of 3 of the world's top 4 teams, Frank Murray sees real threats in Melbourne.
I think it's going to be a very tight competition. I think there are 4 teams that are basically level pegging. I think England, New Zealand, India and ourselves are, and South Africa's almost right there as well. So any one of those 4 teams I think can go and win it, as India showed in Manchester at the last Commonwealth Games.
And both Australian coaches agree that in their Olympic planning there are real benefits for their younger players from competing at a multi-sport event such as the Commonwealth Games.
That's probably the best thing about it. It gives them an example of what they have to cope with, because multiple sport events for a sport like hockey is often a bit of a freak show, because they get to eat dinner next to the person that they've watched on TV, and when you get to an Olympic Games that can be quite distracting. So it gives them a taste of that, and something that we can then build on in 2 years' time.
Very much a multi-sport event, and for us to experience the Commonwealth Games, for players that haven't been in that, it's very good preparation for our major goal this 4 years, which is another Olympics. So from that point of view, it's very good from development. The pressure will be on at home. Certainly to win at home, the profile of a Commonwealth Games in Australian sport is very high. So from a profiling of our sport, very important in our country.
And these are the competing men's teams in Melbourne next month, showing their current Sahara World Hockey rankings, with Australia on top of the list. And it's the same story in the women's event, with Australia at the top of the Commonwealth table and currently ranked 3rd in the world.
Coming up on BDO World Hockey, Mike Mahood, the Canadian goalkeeper with a flair for fashion and some unusual friends. The Dutch women's team has established itself as an outstanding combination, ranked number 1 in the world with a proud tradition that includes World Cup and Olympic gold medals and the last 2 Champions Trophy titles. It's that tradition of success that has attracted the attention of 2 Dutch documentary makers, Nick Koppen and Esther Garland. The pair is exploring the team's culture of success, travelling with them for almost 12 months as they work towards the Samsung Women's World Cup in Madrid in September this year. But their documentary will be about more than hockey, as we discovered during the Champions Trophy tournament in Canberra last December.
It's a social story that I want to tell. It's not a film about the hockey championship itself. Everybody will see the film, will know if they made it or not. I mean, this is a film that will come out in 2007, so that's I need at least half a year after the tournament to finish the film.
The focus of the film will be the preparation for the World Cup and the way the players interact. The filmmakers' challenge is to gain their trust.
Well, actually, we want to get into the group, and that as a almost that you, when you see the film, that you have the idea that you know them all, and that you that it's something that you experience as they do, and that's why we came here, because of course it's a matter of learning to know each other. They have to learn to know us, and we want to know more about them, of course.
Esther Garland is a historian and researcher, keen to know what motivates the players.
Well, so far I've been doing, well, let's call it officially research. So that meant that I sort of interviewed the girls before we came here to Australia to get to know them, and then they would have the possibility to ask me questions about what they could expect. You know, all different sort of things, not only about hockey but also about their drive of, you know, giving up a lot of things in their lives to play at this level.
One aspect of the team's travel that will feature in the film is the desire to experience other cultures while on tour.
And then we try to bring in some other elements, sometimes not that easy because, as you know, the age of the girls is different. I think in basically everybody is interested in doing these kind of things, cultural things, let's call them cultural things. But sometimes it's somewhat difficult to convince them.
Tournament schedules are demanding and don't leave much spare time for the players. But during their winning performance at the Champions Trophy event in Canberra, some of the Dutch players were able to get out of their hotel to embrace the Australian culture.
You want to go, thanks.
A cricket match between Australia and the West Indies at Canberra's Manuka Oval was a welcome diversion from the hockey and the inside of a hotel room.
You're in the hotel for two and a half weeks, and we can go out for shopping or drinks, and I've never been to a cricket game, so I'm like, yeah, I really want to go, so that's why I'm here.
There was also a chance for some of the players to get out with the filmmakers to see a little more of the Australian capital, to take in some of its more popular tourist attractions, including the National War Memorial.
When we have the time, I really like to see some cultural things and yeah, just to know something more about the city.
Just looking at the pitch and being in your hotel doesn't really, well, it doesn't fulfill your life completely. It's nice to play games, and sports are really important, but what people do in the countries you go to is pretty interesting, I think.
Well, we normally don't have much time to do this kind of thing, and I like it very much because it gets your mind off the game, and yeah, you just can see what's important for other countries, and in this case Australia, and you can see what people did, and I like it very much.
The documentary is due to be completed early next year.
The Australian men have consolidated top spot on the Sahara World Hockey Rankings after their victory at the Champions Trophy event in Chennai. The Netherlands are second after reaching the final in Chennai and sit 111 rankings points behind Australia. Germany hold on to third despite finishing fourth at the Champions Trophy, while Spain improve again and are now within 71 points of third place. Pakistan remain fifth in the rankings, and their Asian neighbours India are still sixth. Korea holds seventh place thanks to their top 8 Olympic finish, while Argentina are eighth after beating Korea in the Champions Challenge. New Zealand are ninth, still holding points from last year's Champions Trophy, and South Africa round out the top 10 after their win at the Africa Cup. In the women's rankings, the Netherlands retain their grip on top spot. Pan American champions Argentina are in second place. Australia have moved up from 4th to 3rd after their silver medal at the Champions Trophy and their Oceania Cup title. Olympic champions Germany are number 4. China hold 5th after their bronze medal performance in Canberra. New Zealand's win in the Champions Challenge keeps them in 6th place. Korea are 7th in the rankings, ahead of Japan, who are 8th. England are currently 9th, and Spain round out the women's top 10.
Christopher Zeller is one of Germany's key players in their hope of defending their World Cup title in Mönchengladbach later this year. At just 21, Zeller has scored 44 goals in 75 senior games. And he doesn't just score them, he can also be the provider, as was the case in Chennai when he set up Matthias Witthaus.
Zeller, oh, beautifully worked. Goal. Matthias Witthaus started it and finished it.
His talent was identified early, elevated from junior teams to the senior squad at just 19. He scored the winning goal for Germany in the 2003 European Cup final. He was the youngest player in the team.
The youngest player taking so much responsibility. That is unbelievable. I'm very proud of him and the team. Christopher is a very important player for the team. He is a team player because his main focus is to concentrate with his special abilities on the team's efforts to be successful. He's very fast. He's very powerful. He can score in a variety of situations. He takes responsibility.
He already has a European Cup gold medal from 2003 and an Olympic bronze medal from Athens in 2004. And he's also taking responsibility for his future, studying physics at university in Munich. But while he prepares for life after hockey, he has important goals within the sport, starting with the World Cup later this year and the Olympic Games in Beijing in 2008. And there is no shortage of confidence, as we discovered during a visit by the national team to the historic German city of Dresden.
You have to be ambitious to play hockey on my level. I do have talent, I believe, perhaps more than other players, but I still have to work and practice a lot. As a striker, I believe I have to be a team player, but I can also be very powerful in a one-on-one situation. Our big advantage as a group of strikers is that we not only have an understanding on the pitch, but also off the pitch. We're good friends, and it helps a lot in important games to be strong in the group.
There is also a strong family bond. Zeller's brother Philip, a year older than Christopher, is also on the national team, and both have been strong players for their club teams. The younger Zeller is widely identified as a future leader of the German team.
He's young and he has to take over responsibility. That happens very often in our team. We get talented players to a very high level because they are already very important players in their clubs. This is perhaps the German success story.
The great innovators in our game are the players themselves. Coaches make a fatal error if their communication with the players is only one way. The best coaches constantly monitor, watch and listen to their players. And the players are their greatest source of inspiration, innovation and knowledge. A dynamic two-way dialogue is essential if your players are going to own the tactics and strategies that you propose, and their ideas are to be incorporated into the team's plans. Of all the communication skills a coach must have, the ability and willingness to listen is the most important.
In hockey, goalkeepers tend to have a unique view of the game and life. But even among goalkeepers, Canada's Mike Mahood is unique. After all, this is a man who named his goalposts.
So we got Frank here. This is our crossbar Jimmy, and this is Bob. And I'm Michael.
The goalpost names sprang from a night at the pub with fellow players. But it points to a player who strives to be creative, to improve, to change. Even after 9 years on the national team and more than 130 international matches to his credit. The seed for one of the biggest changes in Mahud's life was planted on the hockey pitch at the 1998 Commonwealth Games in Kuala Lumpur. Canada had lost a crucial match to the host Malaysia. Mahud lost his cool with the Malaysian captain, who was lying on the field praying.
I approached him, which was a bad decision at that moment. I approached him and I yelled something into his face. What I told him was, I told him, "You don't deserve the game." And I got pretty close to him.
The crowd was convinced Mahud had kneed their captain. Video exonerated him, but the public anger, even at home, affected him.
As a player, it changed me. I always played probably too close to the edge as a goalie, I think, and that really taught me, okay, I got to step back and I got to figure out what's best for me as a goalie, to not get caught up that much, because I think as a goalie you got to be a bit detached.
The incident forced Mahud to become the calming influence for his team. It also helped to focus his life. After a university career that saw him bounce from political science to urban planning, Mahud felt adrift, unfulfilled.
The moment you graduate, that question of grandma's doing the old, so what are you going to do now? And your parents are having a different expectation of what happens in the future, and so that was always a difficult transition for me. And then when I figured out that clothing business was what I wanted to do, it almost got easier again, because now I knew what I had to do and I just did it.
Yes, that's right, the clothing business. Mike Mahud has transformed into a designer of high-fashion menswear. It's a passion he inherited from his grandmother, who was also in the industry. But it was a trip to New York that turned on the light bulb.
I was sitting on Fifth Avenue, funny enough, having a beer with a friend of mine, and he just mentioned it. He said, "Why don't you do it? You talk about it. We kind of joke around that you're our style guru, and why don't you do it?" And at that point I was like, okay.
He's largely self-taught, but already his designs have attracted attention. His inspiration?
I'm essentially thinking about what I want and what I think is lacking in the market today.
You'd think Mahud would be the target for a fair bit of flack from his teammates. Fashion design doesn't seem the most natural fit with all the testosterone on a hockey pitch. But his teammates seem to recognise his need to be creative, both in hockey and in life.
For the most part, I think they think it's a good thing. They always have commented, "You've got interesting style." Interesting style. So they think, yeah, good, go for it. If you're supposed to be the innovator, go innovate and just let us know. And then they want the free stuff eventually.
Mahud's first designs should hit Canadian stores this year, and hockey fans can catch his next major international appearance at the 2006 Commonwealth Games in Melbourne.
No more balls floating my way. Not allowed.
Before we go, a look at the World Hockey calendar of major events for 2006. The BDO Men's World Cup qualifier will be held in China from the 12th of April, with 12 teams fighting for 5 places in the World Cup field. The Samsung Women's World Cup qualifier is next from April 25th with the same contest, 12 teams fighting for 5 places. The Rabo Women's Champions Trophy is in Amstelveen in July, with the host nation defending their title against Argentina, Australia, China, Germany and New Zealand. And the Sahara Men's Champions Trophy will be played in Terrassa, with Spain hosting Argentina, Australia, Germany, the Netherlands and Pakistan. BDO presents the Men's World Cup in Mönchengladbach from the 6th to the 17th of September. And we go back to Spain from September 27th for the Samsung Women's World Cup in Madrid. Coming up next month on BDO World Hockey, the Wright brothers. No, not the American Wright brothers who made the first powered flight, South Africa's Wright brothers, making umpiring a family affair.